Welcome to Baseball Mondays.
Hello and welcome back to Baseball Mondays. I'm your host, Nick. You're listening to the 5th edition of Baseball Mondays. Before we get into it, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the new videos dropping. You can follow us on all social media at Baseball Mondays. That is X, that is TikTok, that is Instagram. If you like to watch YouTube shorts, if you like to watch little TikTok videos, you can follow my social medias. I got videos, like I said, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok videos, all up and down those social medias. So at Baseball Monday, you can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. I tweet all about baseball. I tweet a lot about the Dodgers. If you'd like to listen to a Dodgers podcast, I have my very own called Talking Blue, where I talk about the Dodgers, break down a lot of stuff. As you can see by the title of the video, the first thing we're going to talk about, and really the meat of this podcast, is Mike Trout and Aaron Judge. They obviously both went off last week in New York, back and forth, a bunch of homers, and it really got me thinking, who's better, Mike Trout or Aaron Judge? Two of the greatest players of all time. And when you really dig deep into the numbers, that is not just hyperbole. That is not something you just throw out there to give the guys respect. They are two of legitimately the greatest players of all time, and we're going to dive into their careers and really just give them their respect because it is amazing some of the numbers that they have put up. And like I said, I'm going to prove and give some real crazy numbers about those two guys. Then after that, we're going to get into some other things with some teams and some hot teams, some teams that are off to slow starts. We're going to talk about the National League and how loaded it is right now. A lot of teams are above 500 and are looking really good into the National League, and who is here to stay, who is a little bit of a pretender. We're going to get into that. After that, some big market bad starts. 3 teams that are in big markets that are off to some bad starts. Are we worried about them? Can they bounce back? How much time do they have? Then, before we get close to wrapping up, I'm going to give you 3 of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball to start out this season. So stay tuned for that. 3 very underrated players right now. Then we'll wrap up with Nick's Monday Power Rankings. It's a new week, so we got to make a new list of Power Rankings. Some new teams are in. Some teams have climbed up the list. Some have dropped out. We'll get into that. And then before I get you guys out of here, I'll talk about some upcoming things to look forward to this week. So let's start at the top. What I am most excited to talk about, Mike Trout and Aaron Judge. And I'm going to talk about them, compare their careers, really give a decision who is better. Is it possible to get an answer? Who is better between those all-time greats? So let's start there. And first, we're going to start with Mike Trout. All right, so he's obviously been off to a great start for 2026, and it's been really fun to see. Obviously, Mike Trout, one of the greatest players of all time, really just owned the 2010s decade, 3 MVPs. He was by far the best player in the league at that time. Ever since the decade has turned to the 2020s, it's not only gone to Aaron Judge, but Trout has dealt with a ton of injuries, has really not been able to stay on the field. So far early on in 2026, he's been healthy. And like I said, in that 4-game set in New York against the Yankees, 6 for 16, 5 home runs. It was he put on a show, and a couple of them were some late-inning home runs that flipped the score. Aaron Judge, on the other side, he hit 4 home runs in that 4-game set. He is also off to a great start, like he always is. And they are 2 of the best players of all time, and right now in 2026 have been 2 of the better players in the game this year. So Mike Trout, like I said, I'm going to start with him. A .234 batting average so far, so the batting average has not necessarily been there, but a .422 on base, a .558 slug, and a .980 OPS with 7 home runs. And if you go to Aaron Judge, same thing. The batting average is not necessarily there. .232 batting average, .330 on base, which is low by his standards, a .598 slugging percentage with a .928 OPS. He has 9 home runs. He is 1 behind Yordan Alvarez for the Major League. These guys have been off to great starts. I'm going to dive into their careers, starting with Mike Trout because he's a little bit older than Aaron Judge and has been around for a little bit longer of time. So, prime Mike Trout. What is his prime? All right. Basically, 2012 to 2019, an 8-year sample size where if you go back to those years, a lot of times people would throw around, are we watching the greatest player of all time? And again, when you dig into the numbers, that was not just hyperbole. There was it was with great reason that he was regarded as one of the greatest players of all time and really got off to one of the greatest careers of all time. So from 2012 to 2019, he was third in batting average, a 306 batting average, second in on-base percentage, 421. He was first in slugging percentage, 587, first in OPS at a 1,008 OPS. He was third in home runs total. First in WAR, and just to give you some perspective, a 72.6 WAR. The next closest in that time span was Buster Posey at 47.1. He absolutely blew everyone out of the water with his WAR, his wins above replacement, and really when it came to the best all-around player in the game, there was nobody on his level. A center fielder in his prime who hit like of the best hitters of all time. Power, getting on base, great defense, great base runner. He was on a trajectory to be up there with Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., some of the best all-around players of all time, Alex Rodriguez. That is why he was held with such regard. And again, another thing that I love looking at to prove why Trout was just so elite and so good and so consistent. If you go through those years, 2012 to 2019, look at the MVP finishes. Okay, so 2012, his magical rookie season, he finished second in MVP voting to Miguel Cabrera, who won the Triple Crown that year. And even though Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown, he was still close and legitimately had a chance to win the award. Now, Miguel Cabrera won the award, rightfully so. He won the Triple Crown award. Trout, in his age 20-year-old season, finished second in MVP. 2013, he finished second in MVP again to Miguel Cabrera. 2014, he now wins his first MVP unanimously. 2015, he finished second in the MVP to Josh Donaldson. And if you look at the numbers, this was a year that he really should have won because he pretty much outperformed Josh Donaldson in every category. I would imagine the only reason Donaldson won it is because he was a massive piece to the Blue Jays run into the playoffs that year. So he finished in second that year. Go ahead to 2016, he wins his second MVP award, beating out Mookie Betts that year. It's 2017. This was the first time Trout was really injured in his career. He only played in 114 games. He probably would have won the award if he stayed healthy. His 180 weighted runs created plus was by far the most in Major League Baseball, better than Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. This is where these two guys' careers now overlap. Judge, this 2017 was his first rookie year where he finished second in the AL MVP. Just like Trout did, he finished second to Jose Altuve. 2018, Mike Trout finishes second in the AL MVP to Mookie Betts. This time Mookie Betts got the best of him. And again, if you look at a lot of the numbers, Trout very well could have won the award. He was right there with Mookie Betts, kind of outperformed in a lot of numbers. But Mookie Betts had very similar numbers to Trout and was on the best team in baseball that year. So Mookie Betts edged him out. 2019, this was Trout's third MVP. He had a career-high 45 home runs. So basically, in that 8-year sample size, he either won the MVP or finished second. He was either the best player in the league or the second best player. That is incredible. Right now, in Major League Baseball, Jose Ramirez of the Guardians, it seems like every year he finishes third in the finalists to win the award. Trout was doing that with way better numbers, and he's either winning it or finishing second. Okay, that is how consistent and how good he was in that sample size 2012 to 2019. Okay, 34 years old is what his current age is, 16 years in Major League Baseball. Here are his all-time ranks. Okay, this is minimum 5,000 plate appearances. This goes back all the way to the year 1900. Okay, so baseball, a sport that has been around for over 150 years. This goes back well over 100 years, okay? Minimum 5,000 plate appearances, all right? So this weeds out a lot of guys who have only been around for like 6-7 years, like Shohei Ohtani. This is like guys who have truly been around for well over a decade, well up there with the best players of all time. 411 career home runs. He is the 12th highest slugging percentage of all time, the 13th highest OPS of all time, and he has the 8th highest weighted runs created plus of all time. He is 28th in WAR all time. So again, 16 years in, he has the 28th highest WAR of all time. There have only been 27 more valuable players in the history of Major League Baseball than Mike Trout. Unbelievable stuff. Again, and I just want to show you, when you take a look at this list, okay, like I said, when you look at OPS, he is 13th all time. So at the very top, you got Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Barry Bonds. There are other guys mixed in there. Hank Greenberg, Rogers Hornsby, Manny Ramirez, Mark McGwire, Joe DiMaggio. Mike Trout is 13th all time. So it is not hyperbole to say this is one of the greatest players of all time. And his peak, his prime, was up there with of the best that I've ever played. And obviously baseball is a sport that's been around a long time. When you talk about the greatest players of all time, you immediately think of Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Barry Bonds. A lot of guys that when you look at their pictures and their video, it was during black and white times. You know, there wasn't color when you see the video of those guys. When you see your name next to guys like that, you know you are doing something that nobody has ever done. So I just wanted to give Trout his respect. Now, the unfortunate thing for Trout after all that, like I said, 2012 to 2019, up there with some of the greatest primes and peaks of all time. Since then, though, well, I should say before I get into that, he's a 3-time MVP. He's an 11-time All-Star, a 9-time Silver Slugger. He also has a Rookie of the Year award. Since that 2019, his last MVP, 2020, which was the COVID year, so I should say that, only 60 games that year, 53 games played. 2021, he only played in 36 games. 2022, he only played in 119 games. And this shows that he was still an elite player. 2022, 119 games. He hit 40 home runs. 40 home runs in only 119 games. He would have given Aaron Judge, who won the MVP that year, a real run for his money if he was actually healthy. 2023, he only played in 82 games. 2024, 29 games. 2025, last year, was kind of the closest thing we got to a real full season, 130 games, so he still missed 32 games. 26 home runs and a 797 OPS. That was really the first time we've ever seen Trout play somewhat of a full season and didn't really put up like the historical numbers. 26 home runs, a 797 OPS. Still was above league average, but when you put up those all-time crazy season totals, it was obviously a big-time down year for Trout. I gave you the numbers that he's done, that he's put up so far early on in this year, a 980 OPS, 7 home runs. He's been off to a great start, and it would be nice if we could see a little bit of a nice second half of Trout's career, maybe in his age 35, 36, 37-year-old season. If he could put up some more numbers, we'll see him get to 500 home runs. Maybe he could get even closer to 600. Who knows? It would be a little bit far-fetched, but really, he is truly one of the greatest players of all time. Let's go to Aaron Judge, and then we'll talk about his career markings, and we'll kind of compare the two. Is there a true comparison? Who is better? I'm going to get into that. But let's go to Aaron Judge now. Like I said, he hit the 4 home runs in this series. He has a 928 OPS to start the year, which is, by his in crazy standards that he's set the last couple of years, it's actually somewhat of a slow start. But I'm going to get into his career. A little bit different from Trout. We've seen Trout deal with the injuries later in his career. Judge is a little bit of a different story. He actually dealt with injuries early on in his career. So Judge's prime pretty much is 2017, his rookie year, to now, which is 10 years. If you really wanted to look at his true prime, which I'll get into this, it really starts in 2022, where he really just took his offensive production to another level. But 2017 to the current times, 2026, he is 6th in average at 295. He is 2nd in on base at 414. 1st in slugging percentage at 620. 1st in OPS at 1,035. He is 1st in home runs with 372 career home runs. 1st in WAR, 62.4 wins above replacement. From 2017 to now, he has pretty much been the best player in the sport, by far the best offensive player in the game, and by far the best power hitter in the game. There's nobody on his level, okay? let's go through his years. 2017, like I said, when he broke in, he finished in second in MVP to Jose Altuve. And again, very similar to Trout, he was right there, had a real chance to win it. And if you look at some of his numbers, he actually was a lot better than Jose Altuve. But Jose Altuve hit like 350 that year. The Astros were an up-and-coming team. They ended up winning the World Series that year. We know that they cheated with the sign-stealing stuff. But anyways, an incredible rookie season for Judge that year. 52 home runs, which was at the time a rookie record. 2018, 2019, this is where the injuries started to pile up for Judge, but he was still putting up incredible numbers. All right, 2018, where he only played in 112 games, 27 home runs, a 919 OPS. He still hit 27 home runs in only 112 games. 2019, 102 games, so he still missed a ton of time. 27 home runs, a 921 OPS. 2020, the COVID year, 60 games. He only played in 28 games, so less than half of that season, an 891 OPS. 2021, this was a full season from Judge, 148 games. He hit 39 home runs with a 916 OPS. So up until this point, he's kind of shown when he's healthy, he's going to put up an OPS in the low 900s. He's going to hit you 30 to 40 home runs. He's going to be one of the better players in the game. But 2022, this is where Judge, I don't know what he did. I would love to know. This is where he has done something different, where he was already putting up crazy numbers, but this is where Judge went from a, MVP caliber player, Silver Slugger, to a all-time great when you dig into these numbers. Okay, 2022, he won his first MVP. He obviously set a new single-season American League home run record with 62 home runs, a 206 weighted runs created plus. Okay, and if you're not aware, WRC plus, which is a number, a very great analytical number that takes away ballpark advantages like players who play in Coors Field. It kind of is park adjusted, so it puts everybody on an even playing field with a 100 is league average. Judge, a 206 weighted runs created plus. He was 106% better than league average. You don't see that. Okay, you don't see that every day. 2023, he did get hurt. Now, it was a little bit different than the injuries he had earlier in his career where he had a little bit of some, hamstring and oblique stuff. He ran into the fence in Dodger Stadium and broke his big toe. So he only played in 106 games, but he kept up that all-time great production. 37 home runs in only 106 games with a 173 weighted runs created plus. 2024, this was probably the best season of his career. He won the MVP unanimously. His second MVP, 58 home runs, a 220 weighted runs created plus. I'm going to say that again. League average is 100. He had a 220 weighted runs created plus. He was 120% better than league average. And in case you're not aware, that is statistically the greatest season from a right-handed hitter in baseball history. Let me say that again. A 220 rated runs created plus is the best right-handed hitting season from a hitter in baseball history. 2025, he won his third MVP with 53 home runs and a 204 weighted runs created plus. Since the start of 2022, he has a weighted runs created plus of 202. And again, to put that in perspective, the next closest hitter is Yordan Alvarez with 172. He is 30% better than the next closest hitter. He is by far been the best hitter since the start of 2022. No one's even close. He is outslugging other teams. He has been doing incredible since the start of 2022. And again, I said this earlier, 2024, the weighted runs created plus of 220 is the 10th highest in a single season in baseball history. 2022, the year that he broke the home run record, 208, is the 19th highest weighted runs created plus in a single season. To put that in perspective, Aaron Judge in the last 5 years has two of the greatest 20 offensive seasons in baseball history. That is not something you see every day. He is legitimately in the conversation for one of the greatest hitters of all time. There's a good chance he's going to go down as the greatest right-handed hitter of all time because when you look at some numbers, again, I'm just like Trout, I'm going to get into this. 33 years old. He's been in the big leagues for 11 years now, so he's had less time than Trout. What made Trout a little bit more unique than Judge is that Trout broke into the big leagues at 19 years old, and basically from the time he was 20 years old, started putting up historic numbers. Judge's rookie historic season came at 25 years old. So Trout had a head start on Judge, okay? 11 years in, he has 377 career home runs. He has the fourth highest slugging percentage of all time. Fourth. The sixth highest OPS of all time, and the third highest weighted runs created plus of all time. When you look at the greatest hitters of all time, if you look at OPS, this is the highest OPS in baseball history. Babe Ruth is 1, Ted Williams is 2, Lou Gehrig is 3, Barry Bonds is 4, Jimmy Fox is 5, Aaron Judge is 6. Yes, he is the sixth highest OPS in baseball history. When you look at weighted runs created plus, it goes Babe Ruth 1, Ted Williams 2, and Aaron Judge 3. He has been simply the greatest right-handed hitter of all time. That is amazing, and it is so fun to look at those numbers. Now, when it comes to who's better, really quickly, I'll just give his numbers like I did Trout. A 3-time MVP, a 7-time All-Star, a 5-time Silver Slugger, and a Rookie of the Year, just like Trout. Very similar numbers. They are 2 of the greatest players of all time, 2 of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time. And to answer the question, over 20 minutes into this podcast, who is better? I'll give it to you simple. The better all-around player is Trout. Now, the injuries has definitely affected Trout. He was on a trajectory to be one of the greatest players of all time, and he still is going to finish as that, but he was truly on a trajectory to be up there with Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, like up there, Alex Rodriguez, with some of the best all-around greatest players of all time. The injuries is going to affect that, but when it comes to who's the better all-around player, it's Trout because of what he's done. When you take a look at his WAR, being a center fielder, the base running, all that stuff is what makes Trout and his peak higher than Judge's. What Judge has done, specifically these last 5 years or so, he is definitely been a better offensive player than Trout. Again, his weighted runs created plus for his career is 177. That's third all-time. Trout is 166. That's eighth all-time. Judge has a higher peak as a hitter. Trout has a higher peak as an all-around better player. What would you take? I guess that's up to you. I think I would take Trout because of the all-around aspect. But the thing about Judge is, again, he has a real argument to be one of the greatest hitters of all time. He is probably going to go down as the greatest right-handed hitter of all time. You know, Barry Bonds, Ted Williams, and Babe Ruth are pretty much the 3 greatest hitters of all time. Those guys are all left-handed. Aaron Judge has a real case to be the best right-handed hitter of all time. The only thing that's going to affect Judge in an all-time ranking discussion is, again, because he broke into the league older than Trout, he's not going to have, like, Judge is probably not going to hit like 600 career home runs. You know, he's not going to be in like the top 10 home run totals, but he's going to definitely probably hit 500 home runs, which is going to help. Usually you hit 500 home runs, you're definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. And even if Judge doesn't get to the 500 total, he's still going to be in the Hall of Fame easily because this peak is unlike really anyone in the game outside of Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, and Ted Williams. Really fun stuff, and it just goes, you know, again, I've said it multiple times, it's not hyperbole when you say these are 2 of the greatest players of all time who have had 2 of the highest peaks of all time. Truly crazy stuff, especially when you look at Judge. Those offensive numbers that he's put up, again, the weighted runs created plus seasons that he's had the last 5 years, it puts him up there with some of the greatest individual seasons of all time. Okay, I just wanted to quickly get to the National League. All right, the National League is loaded right now. All right, I'm not going to talk about teams like the Dodgers and the Braves, the Brewers, some of those other teams that we kind of already knew about. I am going to include the Padres, although they have the second best record and the second most wins in the game right now. But I just wanted to give some credit to some of these teams that are playing really well right now. We'll start with the Cincinnati Reds, who are in first place in the NL Central, 14-8. Spoiler alert, they might have made my power rankings. Now, they swept the Twins over the weekend. Now, the thing that is weird about the Reds, and I'll get into this into a sec as to why I'm not sure if they're here to stay. They have the lowest team OPS in Major League Baseball. So they have two of the better players in the game right now with Sal Stewart, a 162 weighted runs created plus. Ellie De La Cruz has a weighted runs created plus in the 130s. After those two guys, they are doing nothing offensively. They have the lowest team OPS in Major League Baseball, like I said. Now they have the 8th best team ERA in Major League Baseball. Specifically, they are number 1 in bullpen ERA. But they're kind of in a confusing team because the offense outside of Cruz and Stewart has been horrible. So I don't know how much of that they can maintain. And they also are undefeated in one-run games this year. I believe they're 10-0. That's something that you can't really maintain. That's going to be very difficult to maintain. But there's no doubt they can pitch. We know that they have a really good starting rotation that will get better at some point when Hunter Green joins them. The question is for them is, can the other guys contribute offensively to make them a better team? But I have to give them a respect. They're in first place. I have to give them respects with my power rankings later. But are they here to stay? I'm not sure because we got to see with the other guys in the lineup. Right now, I would say they are not here to stay. They will not be able to keep up this one-run winning wins that they've been able to pull off. We'll go to the next team, the Padres. I already talked about them last week, so I'll be quick. Second place in the NL West. They're a half game behind the Dodgers, who have been the best team in baseball right now. 9 wins in their last 10, tied for the most wins in the game with the Dodgers. Again, very similar to the Reds, the 10th worst OPS in Major League Baseball. Tatis, Machado, and Merrill are all well below weighted runs created plus of 100, which is league average. Now, Tatis has the best hard hit rate in Major League Baseball, so he's been very unlucky, and a lot of the numbers say that he's going to break out. They have the 5th best team ERA in Major League Baseball, 4th best in the bullpen. Of course, Mason Miller is just doing historic stuff, and I talked about it a week ago. No doubt in my mind that they're going to stay in the mix, and there's no doubt in my mind that guys like Tatis, Machado especially, Jackson Merrill are all going to heat up, and a lot of guys offensively that have been great for them are going to continue that, and the Padres are going to be a great team. I really like the Padres. I picked them to be in the postseason to start the year. They're doing it right now. They're red hot. As soon as, like I said, Tatis gets a little bit more favorable luck, they're going to continue to be great. So we'll go to another couple of surprising teams. The St. Louis Cardinals, who I told you guys with some of their young players could have a pretty quick rebuild. Obviously, we know Jordan Walker's been off to a crazy start, but they're second place in the NL Central. Currently, they just swept the Astros over the weekend. 7 wins in their last 10. They have the 13th best OPS in Major League Baseball, so better than half. All right, Jordan Walker, a 181 weighted runs created plus. Alec Burleson, who's been a pretty solid player for them for a couple years now, a 131 weighted runs created plus. J.J. Weatherholt, a 122 weighted runs created plus. But they have the 5th worst team ERA in Major League Baseball. The starting rotation's been not good. And outside of a couple guys in the back end of their bullpen, not so great. They will regress at some point. They are not here to stay. I don't believe they are. They're a very young team. If they can just do some nice things and show some of their talent and be close to 500, that'd be a great step in the right direction for them. But they're going to regress because they have too many young guys who at some point, J.J. Weatherholt will, show his rookie struggles. Walker won't put up a 181 weighted runs created plus for the entire season. I do think he's here to stay and is going to put up a monster year. But at some point, those young guys are going to regress, and they are not here to stay. The Arizona Diamondbacks, another surprising team. 3rd place in the NL West, a very good division, just like the NL Central. They took 2 out of 3 over the weekend from the Blue Jays. 7 wins in their last 10. But again, similarly to the Reds, they are a little bit of a confusing offensive team. They're 18th in team OPS. Corbin Carroll has a 169 weighted runs created plus, but everyone else has just been very inconsistent. And this is a team that's supposed to hit and put up runs. But they're 19th in team ERA, so they have not been pitching. So they're below, the average mark in OPS and team ERA. Lurie Gurriel Jr., did just come back from an ACL injury. That's going to help them offensively. And I do think the offense should improve. This is a team that should be really good offensively. But I don't think I believe in them long term. The pitching, the bullpen, like I said, after Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, the lineup drops off heavily. The pitching's not going to be good. I don't believe in them long term. I don't believe they're here to stay. But I think they'll be about a 500 team. And if they can continue to rake and hit, they're not raking right now, but if they can get better, they'll stay in the mix. And then the last team, the Chicago Cubs, who are starting to turn it on. All right, they're in fourth place, which doesn't say much because the NL Central is really good right now, 12-9. Swept the Mets over the weekend, who we'll get to in a minute. The Mets are just falling out of the sky right now. 7 wins in their last 10. 10th best team ERA in Major League Baseball. Shota Imanaga has been dominant to start 2026. He has one of the highest K rates in Major League Baseball. 6th best OPS in Major League Baseball. All right. So they're pitching and they're hitting. Like I said, 10th in team ERA, 6th in OPS. All right. When you can hit and you can pitch and you combine those two, that's how you become one of the better teams in the game. Nico Horner, which we'll get to later, a 159 weighted runs created plus. Carson Kelly, the catcher, 160 weighted runs created plus. He had a very nice year a year ago. Ian Happ, one of the more consistent outfielders in the game, a 146 weighted runs created plus. And then Michael Conforto, who don't look now, but Conforto and Kyle Tucker switched teams. And right now, Kyle Tucker's been slightly above league average. Michael Conforto, a 158 weighted runs created plus. So he's been raking. And they're doing all this without Alex Bregman, Pete Crow Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, and Michael Busch. All those guys are off to slow starts, and you know they're going to heat up at some point because Alex Bregman is as consistent as it gets. Seiya Suzuki is a very good offensive player. Michael Busch, ever since he's gone to the Cubs, has been very, very consistent. Pete Crow Armstrong, I know he doesn't walk, and I know he swings and misses and chases a lot, but he's got pop, and he's definitely going to get hot at some point. This lineup has a chance to be very, very lethal with a pitching rotation that's been off to a great start. I said one of the things I wanted to see from the Cubs is someone in that rotation take that ace mantle. I know Cade Horton went down earlier with the elbow injury, but like I said, Imanaga has been great, and Edward Cabrera has also gotten off to start for them. So they're pitching out of the rotation, and they're hitting offensively. A couple guys are going to get going in that lineup, like Bregman, like Pete Crow, like Seiya Suzuki, like Michael Busch, and this is a scary, scary team going forward. So I like what the Cubs have done, and the National League, when you look at the Reds, the Padres, the Cardinals, the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, when you include those with teams like the Dodgers, like the Braves, the National League is loaded right now. You can't say that with the American League. So let's keep it moving. Let's go to some big market bad starts. All right, I got 3 teams, big market teams that are not off to good starts. We'll get to the most obvious team, the New York Mets, who honestly deserve their own segment. All right, they shouldn't even be grouped in with these other 2 teams. But wow, they are off to a horrific start. 11 straight losses is insane. It's crazy. How can you play 11 games and not win 1 game? I can't even believe that. Tied for the worst record in Major League Baseball. Their manager, Carlos Mendoza, is fighting for his job right now. He's fighting for his life, which is crazy to say when you consider a year ago they came off the NLCS appearance where they, outperformed expectations, and then they got off to a decent start in 2025. It has just gone down the drain ever since then. If you look at the numbers ever since the second half of last year, they are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. Second worst team OPS in Major League Baseball. They're dead last in on-base percentage, which is saying a lot considering that they are a team that employs Juan Soto. And now I know he's injured right now. They are the stars that are supposed to be stars are struggling. All right, Bo Bichette is hitting 217. Francisco Lindor is hitting 205. The young guys that are supposed to be good for them, Mark Vientos is hitting 222. Brett Beatty is hitting 200. And then Carson Benj, the rookie, is hitting 200. Outside of Francisco Alvarez and a little bit of Luis Robert Jr., they've just had zero offense. All right. My favorite team, the Dodgers, they played last week. They just did absolutely nothing. Are they digging themselves into too big of a hole? That's the question. All right, because 11 straight losses, you're getting close to 10 games under 500. I know it's still very early, so I'm not going to bury the Mets, but they are close to digging them into a hole that is not diggable out of. I know that was not a good word, but they are close to digging themselves out of a hole that is too steep. All right, now I do think at some point the Mets will play better, and I just wouldn't be shocked if sometime in June, July, August they put together a great stretch and they kind of get closer to 500 and are, we'll see if they're able to make a run from there. But wow, it is very hard to foresee this team getting into the postseason right now. And they're a team that I picked to make the playoffs. It was very hard to project. I picked them to make the playoffs, but again, we got to just go with what we're watching right now. It's very hard to foresee this team making the playoffs, but we'll see. It all starts with Francisco Lindor, Bo Bichette, and obviously getting back Juan Soto. The starting rotation hasn't been super horrible. Nolan McLean is a bright spot for them. Clay Holmes in the rotation has been solid. Freddie Peralta, I know his ERA is over 4, but he's also been solid for them. But man, they can't do anything right now to win a baseball game. They even had a chance to, end this losing streak yesterday against the Cubs. Devin Williams blew the save. Man, it seems like they can't win a game right now. 11 straight losses is crazy. Let's go to the next two teams, other two teams that were projected to be in the postseason, especially by me. The Philadelphia Phillies. This is the team that I am least worried about. They were swept by the Braves over the weekend. Second worst record in the NL, so that is serious, behind the Mets. Now, in the rotation, Jesus Luzardo has an ERA under 8 at 7.94, and then Taijuan Walker has an ERA of 9.16. Now, Jesus Luzardo, if you look at a lot of numbers, it shows that he's been unlucky, and he's been striking out hitters, and he's actually not pitched horribly, so I would imagine that his numbers will even out at some point. But at the end of the day, you can't play the analytics expected card all the time. Those guys have an ERA. Luzardo is barely under 8, and then Walker is barely over 9. So those guys have pitched bad. 28th in team ERA is just not like this team. All right, this is a team that was supposed to have one of the better starting rotations in the game. Like I said, Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler will be back. Andy Pater made his major league debut. Aaron Nola is a very reliable big league starter. Will Zach Wheeler be back soon, and can that help them? What can you expect from the old right-hander who was coming off of the serious health concerns? We'll see. He's currently in the minor leagues rehabbing. Yohan Duran, the closer, lands on the IL. That does not help their cause. Now, the two superstars, their two left-handed hitting superstars, are crushing it right now. Harper and Schwarber. Those guys have been raking. But outside of that, 23rd in team OPS is just not going to cut it. Stott and Adolis Garcia are well below league average right now. I expect this team to figure it out. The pitching will definitely improve in my mind. The only question is, can they get more offense out of the two left-handed sluggers? Alec Bohm, Stott, Brandon Marsh, Adolis Garcia, JT Realmuto. Can those guys step up and create a little bit more offense? Trey Turner has also gotten off to a kind of a slow start. That's going to be the key for them. But they're a little bit banged up right now. I think that they're going to right the ship. I still think this is a postseason team. The sky is not falling in Philadelphia, but, just got to mention they're off to a bad start. And then the last team, the Boston Red Sox. All right. Tied for last place in the AL East with the banged-up Blue Jays. Fourth worst team OPS in Major League Baseball. They're tied for last in home runs. They have not been slugging at all. The first thing that stands out for me are the two guys that were supposed to be their projected best players, Roman Anthony and Garrett Crochet. We'll start with Roman Anthony. He has a 92 weighted runs created plus, so he's been under league average. All right, that's not good. Wilson Contreras and Willie Abreu they've been most of the offense so far for this team. Caleb Durbin and Trevor Story have legitimately been two of the worst hitters in baseball this year. And what the hell happened to Garrett Crochet? He has an ERA of 7.88, a 7.88 ERA. That was my pick to win AL Cy Young. And he's been awful. Last week in Minnesota, he gave up like 9 earned runs. And then over the weekend against the Tigers, he gave up like 5 or 6 more earned runs. This was one of my sleeper elite teams going into this year. So I'm going to stick with them to figure it out because they have a lot of pieces offensively that I like. I like the starting rotation. Sonny Gray just walked off the mound against the Tigers today. A hamstring injury. I don't like that. Confusing stuff right now. But there's no doubt in my mind that Roman Anthony is going to get better. I've always liked Marcel Meyer, Jaron Duran, Cedane Raphael. I love those guys. Trevor Story, Kalen Durbin, those guys kind of scare me. Durbin was a battle league average bat with the Brewers last year. You've kind of felt like they got the most out of him. Trevor Story has not been good for a long time now. But, I definitely believe in Roman Anthony to be better. No doubt about that. So the AL is wide open. That's why I'm not going to write them off, and that definitely helps them. I believed in this team going forward. I will stick with them to make the postseason, but it's not been a great start early on. Now let's get to another thing that I was excited to talk about before we get to my power rankings. The three most underrated players in Major League Baseball right now. Take a guess, all right? Because early on in Major League Baseball, we've talked a lot about, obviously, the superstars, Judge, Trout, Yordan Alvarez, Shohei. Those guys get talked about a lot. And then, obviously, guys like Andy Pages, Sal Stewart, Ben Rice, Ellie De La Cruz, like the guys that have been off to get great starts also get talked a lot. What about these three players that are of the most valuable players in the league so far that have been very underrated and you haven't heard much about? Nico Horner, the second baseman of the Chicago Cubs, Otto Lopez, the shortstop for the Miami Marlins, Dylan Dingler, the catcher of the Detroit Tigers. Let's talk about those guys. Let's start with Nico Horner. Signed the extension at the start of the year, so that was great. The Cubs got to lock up their second baseman. Tied for the third highest wins above replacement in Major League Baseball, third highest WAR in Major League Baseball, the third most valuable player. He has a 159 weighted runs created plus that is tied for 16th best in Major League Baseball. Nico Horner is hitting .325 with a .402 on base, a .518 slugging percentage, which would be a career high for him, .920 OPS. All right, what is Nico Horner's calling card and what has always made him Nico Horner? He's an outstanding defender who runs the bases well, and he doesn't swing and miss. The fourth lowest whiff percentage in Major League Baseball, the sixth lowest K rate. He's 12th in Major League Baseball among all defenders in outs above average. He is fifth among second basemen. All right, one of the best defenders and base runners in the sport. And what's interesting about Nico Horner is that he's begun to hit for a tad bit more power. Okay? So why is he doing that and how is he doing that? So far, he's the highest fly ball percentage of his career, the highest air percentage, so the most amount of balls in the air, the highest pulled air percentage, so the most amount of fly balls hit in the air to the pull side, and the highest launch angle. So he's hitting the ball in the air more fly balls, pulling the ball more, and it's led to a little bit more slug. All right, and that has also led to the highest slugging percentage of his career at .518 and the highest expected slug of his career so far at expected .419 slugging percentage. Can he start slugging? I'm not sure if he needs to. That's not really Nico Horner's calling card. Again, that's what's kind of made him an underrated player, is that he hits for batting average. He doesn't really slug. He makes a lot of contact. He's a guy who's going to hit like 290 to 300. But what makes him really valuable is that he's extremely elite defensively and on the base paths. If he starts to slug like that, he's going to go from an underrated player to a superstar. Because if you combine the on-base, the contact, the defensive ability that he has, and the base running, if you combine that with some pop and some power, he's going to be legitimately one of the better players in the game. So I don't expect the slug to continue, but it does. It is notable that he's hitting the ball in the air a tad bit more, and it's leading to a little bit more pop and a little bit more slug. We'll see if that continues. Nico Horner is a very fun player to watch. Otto Lopez. Have you heard that name before? Are you aware of Otto Lopez, the shortstop of the Miami Marlins, who is only 27 years old? Tied for the sixth highest WAR in Major League Baseball with a 159 weighted runs created plus, which is the same as Nico Horner, tied for 16th. Okay. A .338 batting average with a .386 on base, a .560 slugging percentage, and a .936 OPS. The shortstop of the Miami Marlins is off to a great start. Now, he's always been a great a solid contact bat with a good glove. But what he's improved this year is his hard hit rates, and he's hitting the ball harder and harder, and he has better average exit velocity numbers. So he's not just this, doesn't strike out, punch, just contact king necessarily. 15th best hard hit rate in Major League Baseball with a 24th best average exit velocity. Both of those are obviously career highs. So a guy who's never really struck out a lot, who's never really swung and missed, is now hitting the ball as hard as a lot of the superstars in baseball. Again, 15th best hard hit rate, 24th best average exit velocity. He's a great defender with great speed. Like I said, he's only 27 years old. What a great find for the Miami Marlins, who already are a young, exciting team who have been trying to build up the farm system, who are on the up and coming, who are on the up and up and look like an exciting team that could potentially make the postseason this year. I think they'll end up just missing out. But what a find for a very young, excited Marlins team that you right now have a 27-year-old shortstop who has been up there with the most valuable players in the game, the 6th highest WAR in Major League Baseball. He's hitting the ball harder, more slug, and obviously he doesn't strike out and he plays great defense. Otto Lopez, one of the more underrated players in the game this year. And then the last guy we'll talk about, take a guess. Who has been the best catcher in Major League Baseball right now? Who's been the best catcher to start 2026? Because it's not Will Smith and it's not Cal Raleigh, who finished second in the MVP last year. It is Dylan Dingler, the catcher of the Detroit Tigers, the best catcher in the game right now, certainly to start 2026. A 177 weighted runs created plus. That is 8th best in Major League Baseball among all offensive players, first by far among all catchers. The highest WAR among all catchers. He's hitting .302 with a .380 on base, a .603 slugging percentage, 983 OPS. That is the 6th highest slugging percentage in Major League Baseball. Check out these Major League rankings when it comes to quality of contact. He is 3rd in expected WOBA, 3rd in expected batting average, 2nd in expected slugging percentage, 8th in barrel percentage, 8th in hard hit percentage. He also has not struck out and whiffed a lot. He's a great defensive catcher that can throw. He might be the 3rd best catcher in baseball when this year is all said and done after Will Smith and Cal Raleigh. What an exciting season for Dylan Dingler. Offensively, he is doing some crazy stuff, not as a catcher, because normally you kind of lower the standards for catchers. He has just been up there with one of the better hitters in the game. He is young. He is a great defensive catcher. He's been the best player on a young, exciting Tigers team, him and Kevin McGonigal. Great start for the Tigers. I love me some Dylan Dingler. One of the more underrated players in the game right now. If I asked you who is one of the better catchers in the game right now, who's been the best catcher to start this year, you might not have known. It's Dylan Dingler. So I just wanted to give those guys some credit. Nico Horner, Otto Lopez, Dylan Dingler, all have been solid players to start their Major League careers, but right now it looks like they're going to have some career years. So that's pretty fun stuff. So ton of info that we've gone over so far. Let's get to Nick's Monday Power Rankings. We got some new teams. It's a new week, so I got a new list for you guys. Let's quickly do last week's Power Rankings. We had the Rangers coming in at 10. Then we had the Seattle Mariners. The Cleveland Guardians were at 8. The Pittsburgh Pirates were at their 7. And then the Phillies 6, Padres 5, Brewers 4, Yankees 3, Braves 2, Dodgers 1. So let's start from the bottom with the new list. And a new team, the Cincinnati Reds, first place in the NL Central. Now, I said this earlier, they are a bit of a confusing team, but obviously just come off sweeping the Twins. Ellie De La Cruz and Sal Stewart are up there with 2 of the best players in the game to start this year. They have the 8th best team ERA in Major League Baseball, the best bullpen so far in Major League Baseball. But they're a confusing team. I don't love that outside those 2 players, they don't really have a lot offensively, but I had to give them a respect. They are first in the NL Central. They have 14 wins. I had to give them a respect and put them on here, but I think they're going to fall off here at some point, unless other guys not named Ellie De La Cruz and Sal Stewart can show me a little bit of something. All right, so the Reds are 10. 9, the Detroit Tigers, a team that I have been excited and really antsy to talk about because they have been a little bit of a 500 team to start the year, but they turned it on this week and they're looking a lot better. All right, they have 8 wins in their last 10, 12-10 currently. They're starting to get going. Dylan Dingler, Kevin McGonigal, Kerry Carpenter, Colt Keith are all off to great starts. So those are all guys that I love offensively. Just waiting on Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green to get going. All right, but the pitching has been phenomenal for the Detroit Tigers. Fourth best team ERA in Major League Baseball. They are seventh in both starting pitching ERA and bullpen ERA. So they're getting it done on both sides of the ball in terms of starting pitching and bullpen. Tarek Skubal, Casey Mize, and Framber Valdez have been outstanding. And don't sleep on Kenley Jansen and Will Vest, a great 1-2 punch in the back of that bullpen. I think this team is going to get better and better and climb up this list and be one of the best teams in the AL. I had them as one of my teams to get to the World Series this year. I love the Tigers. I love what they've been doing, and they're getting hot, and I think they're just scratching the surface of what they can be for the remainder of this season. 8, the Chicago Cubs find their way back on my list. Fourth in the NL Central, but again, the NL Central is loaded right now, 12-9. Swept the Mets over the weekend, 7 wins in their last 10. And again, one thing I like is that they're combining pitching and offense. All right, 10th best team ERA in Major League Baseball. Shota Imanaga has been dominant, like I said, to start 2026. 6th best OPS in the game. Nico Horner, Carson Kelly, Ian Happ, Michael Conforto. All those guys are raking, and we're just waiting on Bregman, Pete Crow, Seiya Suzuki, and Bush to get going. Again, when those guys heat up, this is going to be one of the better offensive teams with some pretty good starting pitching. Hopefully, Edward Cabrera and Imanaga can hold it down with the absence of Cade Horton. But I really like the Cubs, and they have the ability to add going forward at the trade deadline in a couple months. The Cleveland Guardians are 7. All right, very consistent team. I'm starting to buy into the hype train of the Cleveland Guardians. I wasn't high on them going into 2026, but I really like what they've done with some of the offensive pieces, but I really love what their starting rotation has done. They are right behind the New York Yankees as the second best starting rotation in the American League. Parker Messick, he took a no-hitter into the 9th inning against the Orioles last week. Gavin Williams has the best strikeout percentage in the American League. Jose Ramirez has gotten red hot. He now has a 140 rated ones created plus. Daniel Schneemann, Brian Rocchio, those guys have been contributing. We all know about Chase DeLauter. If the other guys like Steven Kwan and Kyle Manzardo can get going, this team can actually become scary, and that can really increase their ceiling. But they are built on their starting pitching right now, and I love their starting pitching. 6th, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I am starting, just like the Cleveland Guardians, I am starting to believe in the Pittsburgh Pirates. Again, something I like, they are doing it on both sides. The 4th best team OPS in Major League Baseball, and they have the 2nd best team ERA in Major League Baseball. We already know about O'Neal Cruz, Ryan O'Hearn, and Brandon Lau, but now Spencer Horwitz and Brian Reynolds are getting in on the action. And Paul Skeens and Braxton Ashcraft might turn into one of the best starting pitching combos in baseball. All right, both of those guys have been elite. I really, really love what the Pirates are doing, and they might be for real, and they might stick in this National League race. A lot of really good NL teams. Above them, the Brewers. I know they don't have as good a record, but I just believe in the Brewers long term. I think they are a very solid team. Solid offense, solid starting pitching. The bullpen hasn't been there yet, but I do believe in their bullpen long term. A great defensive team with the upside to get better, again, offensively and on the pitching side. Bryce Terang, Gary Sanchez, William Contreras have all been great offensively. If they can get Andrew Vaughn, Sal Frelick, and Luis Rengifo to contribute, this team is going to be back in first place and, one of the better teams, like I believe. Again, they're missing out on Jackson Chourio and Christian Yelich, but when those guys come back, this team will be fine. I love the Brewers. One of my teams that I'm always, high on, and I love not only their ceiling, but their floor. Very consistent team. The San Diego Padres, one of the better teams in baseball right now. Second place in the NL West at 15-7. They are 9-1 in their last 10. Tied for the most wins in Major League Baseball. A little bit confusing because they have the 10th worst OPS in Major League Baseball, but what they're built on is their bullpen. All right. They have the 5th best team ERA in Major League Baseball with the 4th best bullpen. Even with some of the slow starts, Machado, Tatis, Merrill, none of that changes my mind. This is one of the better teams in baseball in my mind. We know what Mason Miller is doing in the back end of that bullpen. It's lethal. Tatis is about to break out because he has the best hard hit rate in Major League Baseball, and he has an OPS under 700. I don't know how that's possible, but it just means he's going to break out at some point. Machado, Merrill, those guys are as consistent as it comes. They're going to break out. I love the Padres. They are going to get going. I hate the Padres as a Dodger fan, but I love them as a team. They are very, very good, and they're always a very scary, lethal team. The New York Yankees, they got on track this week. They figured some things out. Best starting pitching in the American League. Cam Schlittler has been amazing. Max Fried is as consistent as it gets. How about Will Warren with a 30% K rate? And Ryan Weathers is also getting a bunch of punch-outs. Very, very great starting rotation for the Yankees. Cody Bellinger, he got hot this week. A couple home runs. Trent Grisham is hitting the ball super hard. Like Fernando Tatis has gotten a little bit unlucky. But he has one of the better hard hit rates in the game with one of the better chase rates in the game. All that tells me is Trent Grisham is getting unlucky and he's due to break out. Just waiting on Jazz Chisholm and Giancarlo Stanton to turn it around. When those guys turn it around, this is going to be one of the best starting rotations in the game, one of the best lineups in the game. They have as high as a ceiling as anyone in Major League Baseball. I love their starting pitching. In the 2 spot, the Atlanta Braves continue to show that they are the second best team in baseball right now. They just keep getting better and better. The best run differential in Major League Baseball. Second in team OPS, first in team ERA. The bullpen has been outstanding, all right? And what I really like is that Michael Harris and Austin Riley are now joining in on the fun. I told you guys at the beginning of the year, I didn't pick this team to make the postseason. But what I said, the reason that I thought, why they would improve and, kind of what would make or break their season is if Michael Harris and Austin Riley could get back to what they were in previous years. Right now they've gotten going, and it's helping this team a lot. They just swept the Philadelphia Phillies in Philly. The last piece we're waiting for is Ronald Acuna. He's going to get better and get going at some point. This team is looking better and better each week. And then in the 1 spot, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are still the best team in baseball, the best offense in the game. Andy Paz, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy, they're all raking right now. We're just waiting on Kyle Tucker to get hot, and we're waiting for Mookie Betts to get back from his oblique injury. The rotation has been led by Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, and Tyler Glasnow. Those guys have all been very, very good to start the year. They do have to get some things figured out between Roki Sasaki and Edwin Diaz, but the bullpen outside of Diaz has been good. The rotation outside of Sasaki and Sheehan have been great. The lineup's been amazing. They also have been the best defensive team in Major League Baseball, so don't sleep on their defense. They're the best all-around team. They're off to a great start. The Dodgers are 1. So to recap, we have the Cincinnati Reds at 10, the Tigers at 9, the Cubs at 8. The Guardians are at 7 for me, the Pittsburgh Pirates at 6, the Milwaukee Brewers are 5, the Padres 4, the Yankees 3, the Braves 2, and the Dodgers are at 1 for the 5th straight time. And then before I get you guys out of here, what to watch this upcoming week. We'll start today on Monday. The Toronto Blue Jays are in Anaheim to play the Angels. Dylan Cease and Reed Detmer, 2 of the best strikeout pitchers in the game. So that will be fun. Tune into that game to see a bunch of punch-outs. Tuesday, we got the Phillies going into Chicago to take on the Cubs. Jesus Luzardo, Shota Imanaga, 2 of the best left-handed strikeout artists in the game. Then on Wednesday, the Yankees and the Red Sox, they will begin this year's version of the best rivalry in sports. Max Fried and Ranger Suarez, 2 left-handers, will take the mound Wednesday in Fenway. So that's interesting. Thursday, Phillies and Cubs again. Christopher Sanchez, Edward Cabrera of the Cubs will take the hill. 2 of the better pitchers in the game to start. And then another rivalry, the Dodgers and the Giants will take on each other this week. Shohei Ohtani and Logan Webb will match up on Thursday. That is some fun stuff to look forward to. And then this weekend, we got the Yankees and the Astros, another great rivalry. We got the Cubs and the Dodgers, 2 of the better teams in the NL. The Pirates and the Brewers, a little NL Central rivals. The Tigers and the Reds, 2 teams that have been hot. And then we got the Phillies going into Atlanta. So we'll see if the Phillies can turn it around. The Braves are obviously one of the better teams in baseball. That is all I have for you guys. A ton of numbers for you guys. A lot of stuff to go over. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any of the videos dropping. You can follow us on all social media at Baseball Mondays. Follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back in a week to recap the latest things in Major League Baseball. This is Baseball Mondays. Thank you guys so much for listening.